When I do presentations to groups of loved ones, because that's how I feel that you are, I always come saying, I'm here bearing gifts. And today I feel like I am sharing one of the greatest gifts I've ever shared with any group ever. So that's why I'm really thrilled about this. Last night, when Patty was talking about COVID and what it represents, I really resonated with that. And for me, whatever COVID was, and it was a lot of things for a lot of people, it was an intense and harsh teacher. COVID sat me down and said, be still, don't move, don't go anywhere, no distractions. And then it asked me a question. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? And then one day I said, yeah, I get it. And what I learned during the COVID global timeout, as Patty described it, beautifully, is I learned to live as a God. I believe that at this point, I'm living my life as a God. I know that sounds pretty high-minded, but not in this group. So what does that mean? You know, I think I could probably get stoned in some circles for saying that. Well, I believe it means that I'm married and live with this goddess that I love and adore. But I don't think that's the whole story. But it's an important part of the story. I believe that I live in a paradise surrounded by beautiful, lush, Sonoran desert vegetation, and we have an outdoor temple of love where I can dance naked under the full moon. And that's not the I would do that too, Armand, but I would get clipped, I'm sure. And that's not the whole story. But there's another part of the story, which is that I feel that I've come home. To a home that I've yearned for my whole life. And that home isn't a place. Let me read to you what that home is. And see if any of you are familiar with this home. This was written more than 12 centuries ago by Zen master Huang Po. Your true nature is not lost in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It was never born and can never die. It shines through the whole universe, filling emptiness, one with emptiness. It is without time or space and has no passions, actions, ignorance, or knowledge. In it there are no things, no people, and no Buddhas. It contains not the smallest hairbreadth of anything that exists objectively. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, radiant beauty, absolute reality, self-existent, and uncreated. Are you familiar with this home that I'm talking about? Say yes if you do, if you are. I feel that in my life, I've been searching for that, and I've been an occasional accidental tourist. And more than an accidental tourist, I really spent a lot of my life and my career trying to find how to get there and how to stay there. Because when I would have these homecomings at first, I would cry. And the reason I would cry is because I didn't want to leave it. I wanted to stay there, and I wanted to live there. Man, that's where the action is. And then COVID came along and gave me a template, a pathway, a practice that let me go from the little I, the little I that's born and dies and struggles and is wounded and goes through all that stuff, to the big I. Have you noticed that when you write I am, that your I is a capital I? Why is it a capital I? There's only one, right? If there were many I's, you wouldn't capitalize it. There's only one. It's the big I. How big an I? I'm calling it the universal I. Everybody here has names for it. It doesn't matter what you call it. Just play along with the language. What I do every time I write a book, I call it something else. Because I don't want to get stuck on that. It's language named for something that goes beyond, transcends names. And so, the reason I'm thrilled to be here with you is this template may or may not work for you, but I offer it to you as a gift. If it works, that's great. Because what I know from my life experience is that you can know you are a God cerebrally, intellectually. I get it. I've read the mystical works. I understand it. But it's not about understanding it. It's about feeling it, living it, sensing it. And so the reason I think that you may be ready for this homecoming is because you are God's, whether you know it and are living as such now. A much more authoritative source than me has been saying this. Jesus asked this rhetorical question: is it not said in your law, I have said you are God's? Jesus is telling these Jewish people who are about to stone him for blasphemy, because he said, I and the Father are one. He goes, how is this blasphemy? It's in your scripture. He's referring to the 82nd Psalm, which declares, you are God's and all of you are children of the Most High. So anybody who thinks that's blasphemy, it's in the scripture of Judeo-Christianity. So this is exciting. I have been collecting the tools to get me there for my whole life. In my first book, I wrote about how chanting, sacred chanting, which is something I loved since I was a little boy. When I was 3 years old, Mahalia Jackson would come on the TV at 5 minutes to noon and belt out a gospel number. And my mom has attested to this. If I wasn't sitting in front of Mahalia at 5 minutes to 12, there was going to be some hell to pay. So, somewhere along the way, I got disconnected from that passion for sacred music. And I was in my 40s, and honestly, I was wounded. I had had a devastating loss of a marriage, and I didn't even know how wounded I was. And the thing about this practice that I'm talking about, this template that I'm going to share with you today and Wednesday, is that it's a lot harder if you're carrying wounds in your psyche, if you're carrying emotional wounds. And I had to figure out how to do that. And sacred chanting helped me do that. But chanting isn't alone in that. Healing means wholeness. And whatever brings you to wholeness, which you're passionate about, and I think that is a theme that I'm sensing in this World Congress. It's about being passionate and joyful and really feeling it. If it brings you into wholeness, it's healing. If you can empty yourself of all the stuff that keeps you as a little I, then you open yourself up to being that big I, the capital I, the universal I. So then I expanded to something that I've also known since I was a little boy, which is that play is as powerful a meditative tool for me as anything I've ever encountered. I've taught people how to meditate. I've accumulated meditative techniques. But if you've ever seen little kids playing, boy, we'd like to have the single pointed focus that those kids have when they're immersed in their play. That's why we brought all these toys and all these potions and lotions and scarves, because there's all kinds of ways to play in the world. And so we want you to play in a way that's not competitive or strategic or anything like that, but that you lose yourself in play so that you can find something greater. And then anybody who's heard me talk in the last 8 years about anything knows that I'm going to bring up repose. I love repose because once you've emptied yourself of yourself, you've got to fill up with something. To go from the little I to the big I, you say, welcome, big I welcome you in. I expand myself into you. And so we found, I'm a psychologist, right? So as soon as I didn't come up with repose, I discovered repose and its power in my life. I took it into the lab, and we found that 7 minutes of repose had all kinds of benefits, So now I've integrated it into this practice that I'm going to share with you. It's a very important part. And then deep creativity is a 30-year journey that I took because I knew that my creative experiences were holy. That when I had moments of creative inspiration, I felt like I wasn't just creating some work of art. I was tapping into all the beautiful art that's ever been created in the universe. I was tapping into every scientific breakthrough that's ever been found or discovered. That's how I feel my moments of creative inspiration are, because at those moments, I am connected with that universal I. So I've pieced these all together into this practice that I'm calling inspiring. Inspiring is a continuous verb because it's not like I'm inspired now, I'm in a static place. Inspiring is something that flows. And the way I define inspiring is the art of living as a god. So what does that art look like? It consists of 12 acts. And the reason I use the term act because I feel that if you act as a god, you are a god. There's a book that I love by Kurt Vonnegut. It's called Mother Night. And this Allied spy, American spy, infiltrates the Nazi propaganda machine in World War II and becomes a very effective propagandist while sending information to the Allies, to his supervisor. Well, the person in command, his commanding officer, at the end of the war is the only one who knows his identity, and he dies of a heart attack. So nobody else knows that he's a spy. All the world knows is that he's a Nazi propagandist. And the point of the book is if you act like a Nazi propagandist, you are a Nazi propagandist. And if you act as a god, you are a god. And notice I say act as a god, not act like a god. Because if you're acting like a god, it means you're pretending you're something you're not. I'm acting like a god, but I'm not really a god. But if you act as a god, you're assuming your rightful place in the universe. And there's an important difference between pretending and making believe. What does make believe mean? I make myself believe it's true, and then it's true. That's the difference. I'm a big proponent of this very complex philosophy, which is fake it till you make it. And it has worked really good for me. So if I act as a god, eventually I'm a god. And this practice stems with this realization. There's only one I in the universe, and I am that. One singular consciousness, a unitary presence that abides in everything. If you believe that's true, then it abides in you, and that makes you a god. Because a god is an embodiment of that presence. That's what a god is, a human embodiment of that unitary presence. And that unitary presence, if you buy it, if you believe that it's all pervasive, is looking through your eyeballs while looking through my eyeballs. When I say I am, when my lips say I am, and your lips say I am, it's the same I. The lips may be different, but the I isn't different. There's only ever been one I in the history of the universe. Only one I that ever was or ever will be. I believe that, not because of faith, because that's where I live. And that's where you can live. You may already be living there, by the way. And if so, I bow to you, dear friends, dear gods and goddesses. The only thing that's keeping any of us from being gods and goddesses is our accepting that we are and then living as we are. So how does a God live in a human body? That's part of the reason that maybe more of us aren't gods, is we don't have a sort of role model. You know, we have some role models out there, but they haven't said to us, well, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it's like to live as a God. So that's what I'm trying to create. That's all. If you're living as a God, you should have those three God qualities. You should be omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. Again, it's pretty high-minded stuff, right? You know, can any of us really be that, living in these limited bodies? Well, I'm going to show you how not only you can, but you are. The word inspiring has three I's. Those three I's are the key to the whole inspiring practice. The first I is I am. The second one is I love. The third one is I flow. So what does it look like if a human, an ordinary mere mortal, says I am, versus what a God? When a God says I am, what do you mean? Well, when a human says I am, they mean I'm present. Here I am. I'm here. I'm here. Presence, being present. And so many spiritual traditions tell us we should try to be fully present. Isn't that what mindful meditation is about? Don't you think it's funny that a human being is walking around in a body and isn't present? You know, where are we when we're walking around but we're not present? The odd thing is, I've done it a lot, and I don't have an answer. All I know is I was distracted, I was in the past, or in the future, or who knows where the heck I was. But I wasn't present here and now. So that's why teachers like Ram Dass said, be here now. Be here and now. Be fully present here and now. But I say if you're present as a God, you're not just here and now. You're everywhere and always. And you know, it's not that far of a reach from here and now to everywhere and always. But the key is, you can't be omnipresent without being present, because if you're not present here and now, how the heck are you going to be present anywhere else or at any other time? But the thing that you know to be true is that here is infinite, and now is eternal. If you don't believe me, let me ask you a question. When did now begin? When does now end? Does now end now? Or let me ask you about here. I'm here. Am I still here? These are continuums. Here is a continuum. It's an infinite. Now is a continuum. It's eternal. We just chop it up in our minds. But if you're fully here and now, you're everywhere and always. And on Wednesday, I'm going to show you some things I do to get there. I love. Boy, do I love. And boy, do you love. Isn't that great to love? But to love as a God is to be all loving. That means that your love is unconditional. That's hard enough to do for one person, place, or thing, right? Unconditional love, there is a famous writer from the Middle Ages who said, love is like ghosts. You know, everybody talks about it, but not too many people have seen it. And so, if you can love unconditionally and universally, You're omniscient. And I'm going to explain to you in a moment why that is. So the way I define omniscient is you are all-knowing by being all-loving. In 1996, I did a study of pregnancy, intuition in pregnancy study. And the idea was, a friend of mine was pregnant with her baby, and I said, "Oh, have you had a sonogram? Do you know if it's a boy or girl?" And she said, "No, I haven't had a sonogram. And yes, I know that it's a boy." And I said, "Really? How do you know that?" She said, "I've been having dreams as a boy since the second month. And my partner has been having dreams for the last month of a boy. We have no doubt it's a boy, and of course, when the kid was born, it was a boy." And then I told this story to a colleague, and the colleague said, "Well, they had a 50-50 chance." And I said, "Yeah, but it's an empirical question. We can test it in the lab. We're going to grab a bunch of pregnant women who haven't had an ultrasound yet and ask them, do you have an intuition about the sex of your baby? And if so, what is it? And how strongly do you feel about it?" And if they had an intuition and it wasn't overridden by a strong preference for boy or girl, they were right. 70% of them were right. There's two ways of knowing. Psychologists have known this for 100 years or more. One way of knowing is what's called cognition. You know about something apart from yourself. The mind divides it into this and that, here and there, I and other, and we know about the world through our mind. But there's always been, in psychology, an understanding that there's another way of knowing, which is what mothers do with respect to their babies. I'm knowing by being. You see, when you love somebody unconditional, lover and beloved are one. I know my beloved as I know myself. And so I know things about my beloved because beloved and I are one. So Maria and I will sometimes, she'll say something, I go, "Oh my gosh, she's in my head." And those kinds of things happen a lot, and I'm sure to other couples or close friends, you probably think about some friend, and the next thing you know, you're getting a phone call from that person. So if you can love unconditionally, you can know that which you love unconditionally as you know yourself. A mother shares her body. She shares food and water and everything, life with this child for 9 months. So of course she's going to know her child if she knows herself, at least if she's sensitive to it. So the last time I was here, I'm pretty sure I shared the unconditional love invocation, and you may not remember this. But I can tell you, I know for a fact that this is one of the most powerful tools I've ever come up with for evoking unconditional love. I believe that it can invoke and affect you instantaneously. So a lot of people, have been very supportive in this room about my loving relationship with Maria, which is, just for the record, because I've been asked, it's more intense than it's ever been. And I think that the unconditional love invocation, which we're going to do together on Wednesday, is a big part of it, because we'll look each other in the eye and say this. We'll affirm our unconditional love for one another. And I think that that's how you grow your unconditional love, is by invoking it with intention, deliberately. And then, if you're going to love as a God, all you have to do is take that unconditional love that you have for someone or something in the world, whatever that may be, your lover, your child, your dog, your house plant, it doesn't matter what. And now you're going to expand it to the universe. Now I can tell you, that trips up a lot of us. Loving the universe unconditionally, what about cockroaches? There's some challenges to us on this front. But if you're going to live as a God, well, that's a challenge you have to accept. And for me, one way that I've figured out how to extend my unconditional love to the universe is through the Mandelbrot set. Of course, I'm a brainiac, and so this is this would appeal to me, but I think it's not about understanding what it is as a mathematical set, it's about feeling it. Because when you look at the Mandelbrot set, and on Wednesday we'll do a Zoom of it, and if you get the playbook, a QR code will take you to an even slower Zoom of the Mandelbrot set. And as you're zooming into the Mandelbrot set, you can't help but notice that the same overarching motif occurs at every level. So if that motif is the universal I, whatever you want to call it, you know, your true nature, the big I of the universe, then it's not just that you're a God, you're an embodiment of God. Your organs are an embodiment of God. Your cells are an embodiment of God. Your atoms and molecules are an embodiment of God. And you're living surrounded by embodiments of God who are in layers of embodiments of God. So if you love as a God, that means that that everything you're loving in the universe is yourself. If there's only ever been one I in the universe, and you love anything or anybody, you're acknowledging that you're basically loving yourself in that person, in that beloved. That's what you're doing. Because there's only one I in the universe. So it's not that hard to be all loving. And if what I said before, intuition is about knowing by being, and you know you're beloved by being one with your beloved, if you can be all loving, then you know the whole universe is yourself. This may not be factual knowledge, but there's another form of knowing. Knowing by being. That's what intuition is. And I can know, you can know the whole universe as yourself. That's what omniscience is. And then when you say, I flow, a God is omnipotent, which to me means that you have the power to create anything or the power to create everything. And I say that because, I'll talk about it in a few moments, you can have experiences, and I kind of think that other people in this room who've been presenting are alluding to the same thing, where the whole universe is moving through you. Because if you're the universal I lives in you as it lives in everywhere else, then, and the universe is being created at all moments because now is eternal, then that means that the universe is being created in you at this moment, through you, and you can experience that. Everything in the universe is created through a flow of essence. Essence is what lets us thrive, what lets us exist and thrive, and that can include anything. The genes and chromosomes that make up our body, food and water, breath and air, thoughts and feelings, art and beauty. We were just walking through the streets of Santa Fe and talking about artists and how artists create this beauty that enriches our life. Their essence is flowing from them to us. You hear beautiful music and you can feel the essence flowing from that musician. It's a thing of beauty. That's why, I say with reverence to my musician friends in the audience, what you do is so important and so beautiful and such a service. And for us mere mortals, when we're mere mortals, the one way that we can make essence flow is in our love play. Here I have a picture of a very simple, clear example of love play. A mother breastfeeding her child. Mother's milk is the essence that flows from mother to child. And think about what when we are lovers, what we create. We create life. We create families and communities. Beautiful. Through the flow of essence. And that flow of essence can let the two become one, as in conception, or the one to become two, as in birth. And both of those are creative acts. The two coming together as one, the one breaking up into two, and it's always a flow of essence. So anyone who has ever loved the beloved and has given something of themselves in lovemaking, in childbirth, in breastfeeding, in supporting a family, there's so many ways to engage in love play and make essence flow to somebody. Wife and husband, teacher, student, mentor, protege, parent, child, etc., etc., etc. This is how we make essence flow through our love play in any or all of those roles. And the lover and beloved thrive together by sharing essence. What is an important piece of me, a part of me, that sustains me and lets me thrive, I give to you so that you can thrive. That's what love play is. And I do it because I love you and I want you to thrive. So I give you my essence. If you are in fact living as a God, your beloved is what? Is what? The universe, right? If you're living as God, the beloved is the universe because you're all loving. And so, your love play is a fountain of essence that flows out of you to the whole universe, which is your beloved. But please note, if you're living as a God, you're also the beloved of the whole universe. And the whole essence of the universe flows through you as a fountain. This fountain of essence, which, I'll just tell you, I stole this image from the internet. I wish I could create it myself. The reason I'm intrigued by it is because I know what that feels like. And maybe you do too. Just for curiosity, raise your hand. Does anybody know what that feels like? Yeah, my God, I love this room. Patty, you bring together the most wonderful people. I salute you, honor you, my dear. Oh my God. And so, you extend your love play to the whole universe if you live as a God. It's not just if you can share essence freely with the one you love unconditionally, that's where you start. And then you build from there to sharing essence with the whole universe. And the thing I'll tell you about doing that and embodying that fountain of essence is it's one of the greatest feelings in the world. If you want to know about a perk of living as a God, then this is a perk. Ramajoti Vernon, who is just one of the wondrous women in the yoga world, she started Yoga Journal, and I had a pleasure to know her just at the end of her life. I would have loved to have known her for years and years. She's actually come to me since her death. And she has given this experience a couple of names. And one of it is the cosmic laugh. Because when you're embodying the fountain of essence, there is a breath pattern. And there is a muscle movement. And there is a pattern of sensation that's moving through your body. And that is that cosmic laugh, which is bursts of blissful, ecstatic delight. Laughter is kind of a mystery. Why do we do this pulsating thing, right? This pulsating thing that we do is the one becoming two and the two becoming one. I'm breathing out. The air that was in me goes out into the universe, and then I breathe in and I draw in air, and the two become one again. And so there's this pulsating cyclical movement that is the cosmic laugh. The other thing you should know about embodying that fountain of essence, which is something I've written about creative inspiration. I'm a little bit stuck because the artists get it, but the scientists don't. And what I said is, you're telling me the creative experience is like computation, like a computer coming up, 1 + 1 equals 2. And I say, That's not what creative experience is for me. It's love play. You know, it's the flow of essence between the artist and the artist and the art lover. And so when I'm embodying that fountain of essence, an experience that Maria and I have called flow essence, creative inspiration is a natural part of it. Because I told you omnipotence is you can create anything or you can create everything. If you can embody that fountain of essence through which the whole universe emerges from wholeness and merges back into it, you can, whatever you can catch in your mind, in the butterfly net that is your mind, and you get to keep, that's your creative inspiration. Those are the ideas you generate, the images you create, the great art you create. So I feel that if you're living as a God, you're living in this place where creative inspiration flows freely. So, how do you live as a God? In summary, I am. When you say I am, you mean I am in the eternal now, the infinite here. Not just here now, but I'm everywhere and always. When you say I love, you say I'm all loving. I love the universe unconditionally as myself. And when you say I flow, you mean I flow as the fountain of essence that creates the universe. And that is where I want to live. And I want to say this to you. Living as a God doesn't mean I don't have to pay bills. It doesn't mean that there aren't some hassles. You know, I've been, City of Tucson and I have been fighting over some permitting for a year. And you know what happened? I have to tell you a story. Once I got it, that I wanted to live as a God and stay there, I started to treat these people from the planning department like gods and goddesses. And everything changed. Suddenly they went from this adversarial relationship to saying, here, let me help you. Let me tell you what you need to do. Let me meet with you over here and show you what you need to do on your plan so you can resubmit. It's like it changed everything. And so what I'm inviting you to do, and this is where Wednesday is going to be fun. And the fact that, Fumi, you're doing what you're doing on Wednesday, and I get to do what I'm doing on Wednesday, I would say Wednesday is going to be a party, correct? It's going to be a party. I'm telling you. But let me go back before I show you that slide. I want to say a couple things. What comes the rest of this talk is I want to set the table for inspiring practice. What I'm doing is inviting you to share in this practice with me on Wednesday. I can only give you in an hour a brief overview of something that really could take months or years or decades. I'm going to give you a taste on Wednesday of this. But let's set it up. If you believe this is a gift, that the practice of inspiring, to whatever degree you want to receive it and absorb it and incorporate it into your life and integrate it into your daily practice, is a gift, which it is. It's just flowing through me. I'm not taking credit for this. Then you need to approach it with grace and gratitude. Now, at this point, I just want to tell you about my own omnipotence. Perfect timing. Here, I'm going to demonstrate proof of my omnipotence right now, because first of all, I love you guys. Second of all, when I checked out your guy, Jennifer and Michael's music, and I heard Michael's guitar playing, I said, oh, I really want Michael to play with me on stage, and I get to live my rock and roll fantasy here. So for 23 years I've led chanting. I'm not a performer. I want you to chant with me, please. And what we're doing is we're going to chant a thank you song. I've written a number of gratitude chants in my life, but I was never fully satisfied with them. Because I wanted something that just said, the basics, right? I'm grateful for the grace that flows in my life and the gifts I'm about to receive. How can anybody be so fortunate? Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Michael, Armand, I can't even tell you, these great musicians are going to play with me? You know, that's pretty fun. So give me 1 second to set up.
Working with God.
The pay's not great, but the perks. Oh gosh. As I fumble around, you'll understand why I don't perform on stage for a living. Are we getting through? It sounds like we're getting through the monitors, yeah? I am grateful for the grace that flows in my life and the gifts I'm about to receive. How can anybody be so fortunate? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am grateful for the grace that flows in my life and the gifts I'm about to receive. That sounds so beautiful. How can anybody be so fortunate? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am grateful for the grace that flows in my life and the gifts I'm about to receive. How can anybody be so fortunate? Thank you, thank you. Stay on, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that sets the tone, and then the next thing is to have an aspiration, because you're living as a God. You're not just living for yourself. I've written a couple of aspiration prayers. One's called The Pledge. It's very long. So I decided just to read. I'm inviting you to read this with me, and then we're going to do one more chant. I recognize the one that abides in me and in all things. I make the commitment to awaken from unconsciousness in this lifetime. I dedicate my life and my play to the benefit of all beings. I honor and invoke the wisdom that lives in me. I immerse myself completely in the flow of grace. And then one last piece before Wednesday, and that is a chant that is the initiation into this practice. I am present, and when I am that. And what is that? I am that I am. The only one that ever was or ever will be. The universal I. I am that I am. You can treat this as just a chant or a song. But if you do it with the intention that you're being initiated into the inspiring practice, it's powerful. that. I am that I am. I am that. I am that I am. Everybody. I am that. I am that I am. 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 I am that. I am that I Let's practice inspiring together! Thank you.
That was good.